one tremendous program for you today. We've got some of the superstar dealers in the industry. We've got the Dawg Pound Mischievous regular pounders, starting with an old friend of mine, Ben Macdonald. Ben, how far do you and I go back?
We 21 years, Jim. It's been a while, that's for sure.
West Herr Automotive, Buffalo, New York. What franchises are you general manager with?
The Stellantis franchise, and it's great to be here. Thanks for the invitation today.
Okay, so you got all the Chrysler Dodge, all the products, correct?
Yep, we have 39 locations. We're actually adding four more, so we'll be at 39 early part of next year. So we're excited about the opportunities this next year.
No big deal. Just 39 locations.
Just
Well,
39.
We got Brett with us today, so it's just 39 today.
Well, you spent a lot of money with me through the years. I am so pleased to see you here.
Thanks, Jim.
And now, a woman I've known since she was a toddler, and Kristin Dillard, Team Automotive, 6 dealerships and growing. How's everything today? Do you have a good Christmas?
It's great. It was wonderful. It was very loud with all the kids.
How's Dad?
He's great.
Tell him I said hi. And from Phoenix, Arizona, the marketing director for the Horne Automotive Group, a brilliant person, April Simmons. Hi, kid.
Hey, great to be here. I missed the last couple of weeks with too many things on the agenda, so I feel like I'm coming home today, and it feels great. Glad to be here.
Fantastic. And a dealer that is absolutely a tsunami of buying new dealerships. I'm going to talk about Brett Morgan Auto Group. Hello, Brett.
Hey, Jim. How are you?
I'm having the best day. You ready for the subject today?
I am. I don't do a lot of these things, so the subject really got a hold of me, and I can't wait to kind of learn from the others on the panel and see where everyone's heads at as we round into the new year.
Fantastic. And the curmudgeon himself, the Mad Russian, he's broadcasting from Spain today. He flies back and forth. He's a real jet setter. My friend for another 25 years, Max Zanan.
Hey, Jim, great to be here. I also missed the last couple of weeks. I tried to miss them together with April because I need her in my corner. She makes it sound more legit.
Yeah, she agrees with you when you're messing up the whole broadcast. I appreciate that April and you are back together. And the Empress of executive management, a woman who's held every executive position in a car dealer, my friend Jennifer Briggs. Hi, kid.
Hey, Jim, I'm going to stick up for April here. She doesn't always agree with Max. She gives it to him, too.
Right.
So
9 out of 10 times. 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Fantastic. The subject today, what challenges do you envision in 2023? What roadblocks are stopping productivity? What do we envision that we have to overcome? Challenges? Ben, start us off. What challenges do you envision in 2023? I mean, in the automotive industry.
Jim, I think we're gonna see a lot of things. Inventory the last couple of years has been the challenge, but gross margin's been okay. I think this next year we're gonna have Brett, you laughed a little bit. It's been better than okay, right? I think we're gonna have more inventory. I think the interest rate's gonna play a factor. We see it already with customers where we quote them rates and we quote them new payments, and they just kind of look at us and take a second to digest. So
I saw rebates on television this week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big ones. So I'm with Stellantis, and we, recently we've had $6,000 and $7,000 on trucks again. I remember when they were $1,000 and $2,000, and that was good. We were happy. So I think you're going to see a lot of shift this year, but I really believe in my heart and in my soul that grit can outdo some of this. Some of the progress that we're gonna try to overcome this year. We have to fight through it. We have to keep going, and I hear a lot of negative talk and a lot of negative.
Oh yeah, you can hear it on this broadcast. Just tune us in every week.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of negative talk and a lot of negative speech, but I can tell you, my staff and I are determined to do the very best we can this year. I think leadership plays a role in that too. So.
Well, wait a minute now. You're not one of these people who's going to tiptoe through the tulips and everything's going to be rosy.
No,
okay,
I'm not. But I'm also not the doom and gloom.
I want to be sure. I've known you for a long time. You haven't turned into a wuss.
No, I'm a fighter. I'm also not going to take this laying down. I'll let Max tell you how bad it's going to be. I've seen this. I've seen this day.
Yeah, I don't think it's about the doom and gloom, right, Ben? It's about being prepared for the conditions of the market. And unfortunately, this will just be the beginning. Like, yeah, we're going to have to tighten up as interest rates are going up and used car values are coming down. But the next 12 to 18 months is, and then around that is what I'm a little bit living through the last crash, and where we had so many in all General Motors stores, where we had so many overstated residuals of those units coming off lease. I'm a little bit more afraid of what's going to happen 18, 24 months than I am this 12. I think this 12.
Where were you in the last crash? Where were you?
In a small group out of Saginaw, Michigan. Well, at the beginning of the crash, we had Oldsmobile, Pontiac, GMC, Cadillac, and a little Chevy store that we acquired during the crash. But it was crazy. I just remember, cashing contracts that day at credit unions just to kind of keep things going. And that part, I don't think we're going to deal with right now. We're going to have there are going to be some dealers that aren't necessarily prepared, but I think if you tighten your belt and really focus in on squeezing every single drop efficiently, this 12 months for the dealers on this broadcast should be a cinch. It's going to be what comes as we start dealing with pulling folks out of what we've gotten them or assisted them to get into, because they signed the paper. It was up to them, right? But that's the part I'm having a little PTSD thinking about.
And Jim,
Kristin Dillard. Kristin Dillard, what's going to happen this year? How about inflation?
Yeah. Well, I think a big piece of it is consumer confidence, and are the customers comfortable purchasing and making these big investments or in vehicles. I do think, to Ben's point, though, it's time to go back to work. I think the dealers that have strong processes and strong relationships with their customers are going to be just fine. I think the ones that were just riding the wave are probably
Wait a minute, you're not to the tulips with Ben, are you?
No, I'm just saying it's time to go back to work.
Okay. It's not going to be all rosy. I mean, I don't want anybody in this broadcast to believe that it's going to be all roses, because we're going to have some real severe challenges, and they've already popped up. We've been dealing with some of them. There's some new challenges on the horizon. I was sort of smiling today when I heard that people in the zero weather couldn't start their electric cars. They couldn't charge them. When you get down in those sub-zero or zero temperatures, these vehicles won't charge, and we are committed to making the military totally electric. That's not going to do in some of the terrains that a battle would be fought in. Okay, April, what challenges?
I think the biggest challenge that we're going to face, and especially in the bigger metro areas, is we have a huge amount of staff that has maybe only been selling cars for the last 2 or 3 years. And they, quite frankly, don't have the sales skills they need to put in the grid and have the ability to sell cars this next year. As supply and demand comes back into check, we're going to see things transition back to a buyer's market, which means that we have to do what we do best, which is sell. So I think the biggest thing is, in order for us to retain our employees and not have our salespeople leave, is we need to be making sure that they have the right tools in their
They don't know how to desk deals. They don't know how to close deals. They don't understand. Even the one price dealers are going to have to learn how to deal with the customers again.
And the reality for me that I think is the challenging part is that no matter what we've tried to do the last couple of years, human nature is that we won't do what we don't have to do. Like the majority of salespeople sell to a certain threshold that they're happy with, that they're comfortable with. The majority of them, not saying, the top 10% who will keep going. So they're not willing to step out and do the things that are best practices, that you teach are best practices. They're not willing to do those things. And now they're going to have to. So we either have to start getting in their head right now and fixing that and making sure that they're prepared to sell cars, or we're going to have a mass amount of people saying the grass is greener, and they're going to leave to either other dealerships or other industries as a whole. And we've worked really hard to get them here, so we need to work hard to keep them.
There are two people in this broadcast who are doing remote training. That's going to be me and Jennifer Briggs. Pay attention, viewers. If you need training in your dealership, me and Briggs are on the broadcast. Hello, Brett Morgan. What challenges do you see going into 2023?
Well, what is it that Warren Buffett says, that when the tide goes out, we get to see who's been swimming naked? Well, that's kind of what we've been going through. We know that there's some operators that have just been, frankly, relying on the tailwinds behind them in the industry, and they haven't been. We haven't had to bare knuckles brawl in quite a while. And to April's point, there's people in this industry who haven't been around long enough. They don't remember 2008. They don't remember 2009. I do. I was running a Buick GMC store. I was saying goodbye to Pontiac. I was doing the plumbing, the landscaping, and the cleaning in the dealership that I was running. So I remember it well. So for us, I think it's getting back to fundamentals, ensuring that our customer experience is where it needs to be, handling our traffic as best we can. What have I enjoyed about the past couple of years? Well, I don't miss, fighting my competitors with margin. I don't miss fighting my competitors over who can outspend each other. So I'm hoping we don't return to that. But I really think next year is going to be the year of, if you can manage your used cars proactively and stay at the top of benchmark in F&I and ride the wave of whatever's coming in new cars, I think you'll be fine. Asterisk expense control. But it's not gonna be an easy year.
Are you going to try to save your way into a profit?
No, absolutely not. But at the end of the day, we're going to find out, the most efficient stance that our organization can still control our controllables.
And I think I hate when people think expense control means you're just not going to spend, because that's not what it means. It means making sure that you're inspecting every dollar is doing as much work for you as it can, which ties perfectly well into, it's not just advertising and overspending, but if we've had a complete lack of training, if we're not making sure all of our systems are working together as efficiently. I mean, even something as simple as going into your CRM or vAuto and automating the reporting that you're expecting your managers to look at every day to make those decisions. It's not about, okay, I'm going to tighten the belt. It doesn't mean that. It just means make sure you're making the most of every single dollar you're spending.
Well, I believe a general manager of any dealership should sign every check.
We do. Ours does.
Yeah, every morning when I teach a class on general manager, one of the first things I say, you're going to meet with a controller every morning and go over every invoice, every check, who you're paying out. That is the general manager's responsibility. Max, what obstacles?
So, Jim, remember this old movie, Once Upon a Time in America, with Robert De Niro and James Woods?
Oh.
Remember at the end, Robert De Niro is in the opium den.
Yeah.
So this is where the new car dealers and specifically used car dealers have been for the last 2 years. Right now they got to come out. Right, they got to come out of the opium den all of a sudden, right? And realize you can just say, come on down. I have the car, and it's only $12,000 over sticker, and the customer's like, okay, what do I sign? These days are over, right? So I think it will be devastating for used car dealers. It will be devastating for new car dealers that don't know how to manage used car inventory. And from the F&I perspective, the best advice I can give is that pick your best F&I and promote them to a general manager, because your finance managers didn't live in the opium den for the last.
What a great piece of advice. I like that. Your best F&I manager, promote them to general manager,
right.
Fire your current general manager, right?
Right, because these guys have been closing at the same rate. These guys have been closing at the same rate. They didn't get the benefit of selling cars over sticker. It actually, their job became harder during the last 2 years, because the customer would come into the box and say, listen, I already paid $5,000 over sticker, right? I don't have any more money for a VSC, Gap, or any other ancillary products. And they still had to get the job done. And these are your best closers at this very moment. And they're not as relaxed, because you have to understand that the desk managers and the general managers are basking in their glory based on the last 2 years of production. And you guys know, if you go on LinkedIn,
desk manager,
right? Best month ever, best team ever, right? This is all BS, right? It's not best team, it's not best month. It's just they're victims, of circumstances.
Max, desk managers do not necessarily make the best general managers. General manager is an executive position. And what about used cars? Kristin Dillard, what shape are you in used cars right now?
We are very clean right now. When the value started dropping, we made sure that our inventories were squeaky clean. But one thing that we've started examining is with the amount of, with the value of what the vehicles were versus what they're starting to trend to now, is an effort to protect our reinsurance books. Because if you get too many of those gap claims, then that's going to be pretty painful. So
the gap is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. So we've made some efforts to make sure that we're shored up on our structure.
Are you self-insuring Gap, or are you private
Yeah,
labeling Gap?
We're reinsured for a Gap, but we've made some pretty large safeguards to help protect.
But you were self-insuring Gap.
Yeah. No, we're not self-insuring. We're reinsuring.
Okay. Oh, you're reinsuring. Okay. Yeah. One thing we're going to see is one of the challenges we're all going to be facing is subprime.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at delinquencies are through the roof, even with the high dollar delinquencies, especially.
But even with some,
you got a Mercedes dealership.
Customers are showing at least one late payment on one line of credit on each of their reports right now. It's the credit market's pretty nervous right now.
And I have a question on that. Do we all think that there's the possibility, like with the housing market, where people will intentionally repo their cars? They'll say, hey, I paid way too much money for this vehicle.
Yes, they will.
Here you go.
Hold on.
Here you go.
Hold on. Not that they're going to intentionally do it. The banks will intentionally waive a trade-in. Mm-hmm. And the banks are going to bury each other.
Max, I want to jump in there. I'd heard recently that there was, some lenders out there, promoting basically open auto, waiver or whatever you want to call it, which would be unheard of, at least unprecedented in my times. I've never seen it. Now that isn't necessarily what's happening, but there is something.
Explain that again, Brett. Brett, slow down. Explain that again.
Well, just, basically waiving basically acknowledging that the current open auto is not factoring into the traditional ratios that they judge, credit decisions upon. So they're basically making the assumption that customer has decided to let that vehicle go back. It's all predicated upon the basis of, look, they bought at a time where they overpaid, vehicle values have come crashing down to earth here. And I think there is some danger of that factoring into our business. And you also have all the Toro bros and girls that were building a Toro lot, their own rental, fleet. We've seen some of that and caught some of that out in our realm, where people, try to get 5 open autos launched on the same day at 5 separate dealerships. I mean, I think there's some practices here. There's some things that, you know, have been done in over the last couple of years that can come back and you know, or even now that could potentially be dangerous to our industry.
I'd like to see how much water Cap One has on the books right now. Cap One's been buying deep and buying way over. I'm wondering where they're going to be with the current delinquencies. Right now, 78%, and this is according to Experian, 78% of loans are over 72 months, and 18% of loans are over 84 months. On top of, not only did we finance them at 10,000 over, we financed them for 84 months. A 60-month loan is upside down for 3.8 years. I don't even know how much an 84-month loan is upside down.
The answer is a lot more.
Yes, which is why I'm more afraid of 24 months from now than I am of this next 12.
Right.
Well,
there's still some pent-up demand, right? Like, so 2023 we'll be able to get through by just being better than your competition, right? That's all we really have to do in 2023 is be better than your competition. But to Jennifer's point, as we start to hit 2 and 3 years and we look at some of these waterfall charts that are not only going to impact sales, but they're going to impact service as well, we have the massive hit, and where we'll feel the pain of a lot of this stuff is probably more than likely 2 to 3 years from now.
Well, look at the stat on the screen. Somebody come up with it. I don't know where this stat came from, and I'm always, I raise an eyebrow when I see stats. I don't know where they came from.
I actually heard something similar, but it was even worse than 140. I heard there was one, and I don't want to go into too many details because I don't want to disclose information I shouldn't. But yes, whomever this Facebook user is, I freaked out when I saw some of this stuff on certain programs that some of the credit unions are doing.
Facebook user is coming off of LinkedIn.
They will garnish the pay of the credit union members.
Jim, don't you think the extended terms are really just kind of a symptom of the real problem, which are the rising cost of new cars? When you look over the last 8 years, the average new car purchased, it's doubled in the transaction value, which is insane. You think about the average American has just absolutely been battered by inflation in recent days, and to think that the cost of a new car has doubled, and I think it's 8 or
Brett, you've got me on my high horse now, because it's not inflation that has caused the price of cars to go up. It is greed by the manufacturers, specifically Ford Motor Company. Farley, dust off your resume. Let me tell you something. Ford Motor Company on the pickup truck is going, and General Motors too. They've gone up 40% this year on Silverado and F-150. Inflation didn't go up 40%. Greed went up 40%, especially on the electric vehicles, because the government put a $7,500 rebate on the vehicles. And as soon as the government put a $7,500 rebate, all the manufacturers, GM and Ford specifically, slurped it up, and they went up in their price. Absolutely.
Stellantis included.
Yeah.
But
I know that some of those OEMs were slapping a lot of hands for dealers charging over MSRP at the beginning of the year. And then all of a sudden, they decided to do it on there. So it's okay for you, but not for us.
Yeah, the manufacturers went up 40% on selected vehicles. But they were mad at the dealers for charging over MSRP, and have it both ways. Either we're immoral for charging over sticker, we're the bad guys, or how are you not the good guys when you went up on prices with no material increases?
Well, I mean, it's not like they haven't been compressing our margins for years between Sorry, that's a different show.
I would love to think that there's a happy median here as far as new car inventory carry, and all the OEMs, are drinking the Kool-Aid and have learned their lesson. We know that's probably not the case. But look, they saw that it was dealer double net days over here, and they didn't like it. And that is part of the problem. And look, what the dealer body has done, maybe to extreme degrees, it is not a great thing. But look, we didn't cause the problem. We answer to the conditions of a free market economy to a degree. But I hope when we're talking, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now, I hope that some of what Farley wants to a degree becomes a reality, that we're not looking at a 90-day, 110-day, 115-day supply of new cars on the ground with a specific manufacturer, with this poor mix. I hope that's not what we're looking at, but at the end of the day, they picked a heck of a time to try to go to war with dealers. And I think that's what's going to shake out. There's the state of Florida is launching a suit against Ford. This is, I don't think, frankly, the beginning of, how negatively the dealer body has felt, Ford's EV program. I don't think it's been heard yet. Ford may feel differently because they've got the 40 or 50 or 60% of dealers signed up, but they picked a heck of a time to try to hit us between the eyes.
Well, one thing I'll take up for Ford a little bit, and I don't generally take up for Ford, but they've got dealers out there in some of the markets that haven't put 10 cents in improving their dealerships in the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. There's some dealers out there that are strictly in the used car business, using the finance source and the franchise as a mask to do that. Maybe they need to get rid of some dealers.
They do. And they're over-dealered.
Yeah, they're over-dealered.
We talked about that a couple of months ago, that a dealer that I work with on the West Coast had got a market constriction notification.
What?
The notification was from
market
Ford.
Constriction.
Yes.
Is that a snake in the Everglades? What is that?
Too many points in that particular market, and they were picking and choosing who they were eliminating. Same thing we saw happen during the last recession, where the inefficient dealers were getting that pulled. Mm-hmm. So that's been at least 4 months ago since I had seen that from one of my stores.
April, jump in. What?
I want to talk about the sidebar comment about leasing, because I 1,000,000% agree. And starting with what Brett had just mentioned about the cost of vehicles going up. Well, it's not the cost, it's the payment that is the most important aspect of where it's hurting the average buyer buying our car, which is the need buyer. It's still the need buyer that really feeds all of us. And those consumers, the payments have doubled. It's the payment that's doubled, that now their income did not double, but their groceries went up 12%.
The lease constricts, the lease guarantees the term, and it guarantees the payment.
Correct. And so now here's what I'm seeing, and this is why I really think this person's correct, and I agree with them. When you look at what a lease payment is on a new car today, the inventory that we're starting to get, I actually, for the first time in November, had cars left on the ground at the end of the month at the majority of my stores for the first time. Not a lot, in some cases like 4, but we had cars on the ground. And I started watching what people are shopping for used cars. And all of a sudden, my used car price shoppers are going down again. People are looking for that $15,000 to $23,000 vehicle. Why? Because they can't afford the $800 car payment they signed up for.
April, let me interrupt you for 1 second. Customers do not buy price. They do not buy trade allowance. They buy payment. Payment is the only thing that 99% of your customers are concerned with. But I've argued with general managers and sales managers. Well, they need more for the trade. No, they need more for the trade so they can get a lower payment.
Right.
But they equate price directly to payment. So if we're working on trying to get our customers in based on a price of a new car that has jumped up substantially, we don't have a fighting shot, and we still don't have enough cars under 20 grand that the bank's now going to approve for an extended term with a low enough rate. So leasing is going to be, in my opinion, absolute key to our success over the next couple of years. So I do think that that's a huge brush up.
I did my first Zoom lease training. My first Zoom lease training on Zoom. I had my first lease, because I teach a 1 hour class on leasing. I'm sort of doing an infomercial here, but anyway, I teach a great 1 hour, and the Highline people, they don't even know how to present a lease. I mean, I have
it's very regional. As I've moved out of my little Michigan nook where leasing is all warm and cozy for everyone and we all do it, I am learning that regionally, and it is a knowledge thing. Now, granted,
New York, Michigan, there are certain parts out west. Colorado is big on leases. I've been in 49 states.
And honestly, so that's a training issue, very rarely seen. And sometimes there are circumstances where that lease pencil doesn't make sense, but not for the majority of dealerships across the country. So even as we're talking about preparing for next year, we're talking about the things you need to be prepared for. If you don't already have something set up in your desking system to put your payments automatically next to a lease, and have, whether you're using, it doesn't matter who you're using for incentives, AIS, if you have that connection with your inventory system, rates and residuals, wherever you're getting those programs from, take a little bit of time and configure your software. Train your desk managers and your sales team as well, but make sure that you can automatically set that up so it presents to retails and a lease for a regular presentation in your store. And I saw somebody asking about used car leasing. I think the values of used cars in the next 12 months are going to make that a little tricky. But I know I've got Highline stores that have been doing used car leasing the whole time. And
how many stores are you consulting right now, Jennifer?
Oh. Sorry,
but guys, there's another.
How many stores are you consulting right now?
Leasing is really good for customer retention, and I do most of my business in Northeast. And I'll just give you an example. Nissan right now in Northeast is doing 18-month leases, and this is phenomenal for customer retention. Imagine turning your customer base every 18 months. I mean, it might be not that good for F&I where I make my money, but it's really good for the sales department.
Kristin Dillard, North Carolina, how many leases are you doing?
We don't do a lot of leasing.
I know you don't.
I'm a fan of leasing, and I love it. And I also love to train on how to make the presentations and why, but it doesn't have a gigantic take rate down here.
But that's why I asked you the question, because I knew the answer ahead of time. North Carolina, the culture has not yet gotten to. What do you think? Could you convert that in your dealerships?
I think part of it is how the manufacturers support the incentives and the incentive play. So like I sell Buicks and GMCs down here, and I have a friend in New Jersey that sells the same Buicks and GMCs, and all of their incentives are based around leasing, whereas all of ours are based around special APRs and rebates. So it just depends on how the manufacturer structures that regionally too, I think.
Ben, how many leases are you doing? You're in New York, but you're in upstate New York. You're in the western New York.
We're still 40 to 50% in the Stellantis world, and lower in some of the other manufacturers. But I agree, it's regional, and we have regional money with some of our product that they put on specifically for Buffalo at times. So I can see that. And Jim, I would just want to make.
How well do your people present the lease? How well are your people trained?
They're very well trained. They do a very good job. It's one of the building blocks that we train on when they blocking and tackling when they start here. They have to be good at it.
Did you teach them personally?
I coach and train personally all the time. I had a
good because I taught you. I want to take credit for it.
I did want to make a comment. I did want to say this. We're talking about blocking and tackling, and we're talking about a battle plan for, using your words, for 2023. And I every time I hear somebody talk, I hear about strategy and subprime and all of this stuff. This is stuff that we've been doing for years. I don't think that we're not prepared for this. The guys that have been around for a while, we've seen this before. Yes, the last 2 years have been totally different. Those people are gonna, to Jennifer's point, that's gonna be very difficult for some of our team. But listen, everybody on this call is ready. I mean, they're gonna put their battle suits on and grab a sword and go out and work. So you called it dancing with the tulips earlier. I just had to make sure that I stepped in that one.
Oh yeah.
Jim, I also want to mention how crazy these manufacturers are. I just texted a Nissan dealer, right? I wanted to find out what the residual is on the 18-month lease. These guys are insane, right? The residuals are in upper 80s.
80% on an 18-month lease?
What?
A Frontier is in the 90s. Okay, so you guys do the math. Yeah.
Oh, you're not making
lease around the corner.
Have you seen where the manufacturers are taking away the customer's ability to buy the car at the end of the lease or to continue ownership?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, some of them are doing that because they want to control the ability to negotiate that number, because again, they're realizing they just lost a lot of it in their mind at the end of some of these leases. Now, the funny part is that's going to go 180 degrees the opposite direction.
Right.
Right? As we go
I know it is. How are they going to dispose of these units?
Right. Like they
Brett,
used to.
how much leasing are your
Exactly.
Brett, how much leasing are your franchises doing?
It's very regional in Florida. South Florida has always been a more robust, leasing market, but that's not where we have a lot of dealerships. So in Southwest Florida, there's, I'd say, in a good leasing brand, you'd see maybe a 20, 25, 30% lease pen. In the Tampa area, in the Gulf Coast, 10%. And that's broadly speaking, very brand specific, very regional. But let me throw a hand grenade into this conversation.
That's usually Max's job.
And maybe this isn't a 2023 problem, but at what point does the 2 or 3 years of supply chain disruption in new cars become a used car problem?
Exactly, in 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Well, I would say less. I'd say 12 months. Because we're at what, the 3 year COVID line kind of right now, March of 2020. So we're there's 36-month leases that are
we're going to be there right at the end of first quarter.
Yeah.
So this is where I want to full circle this lease idea, why we need to brush up, because we only run about 15% average penetration at our stores. But when a customer comes in and you're showing them a used car with 130,000 miles on a 9% interest rate, that's going to be a $500-600 car payment, but you can put them in a brand new car lease payment. It's about the switch from the used to the new that we will need to make perfect to be able to get to the other side. Because you're absolutely right. The used car inventory is going to be shellacked. Our service departments are hurting. New car leasing is a great way for us to help pull ourselves out to get to the other side, if our teams are prepared to have those conversations. When you have the customer, the customer still thinks they have to buy a used car. So you got to advertise your used cars.
April. I teach leasing. I got what I consider to be the best lease class. Jennifer, you've attended my lease seminar. You know what I do. And the words people say are your toolbox. And I see salespeople saying all the wrong things when they're converting a lease. They don't know how to do it. Even the Highline, the Mercedes salespeople, the BMW salespeople, they don't know the correct wording to convert a lease.
Well, and I guarantee you why I was trying to figure out which way to point. So I was pointing at April when she was just saying that, because I guarantee most of the people watching this broadcast or watching it back later, up until she just said that, you were only thinking about presenting a lease on another new car retail deal. You weren't considering putting that new car lease payment right next to a $500 or $600 used car pencil I promise. Hence why I was trying to put more motion. It's this way.
Well, you know, I teach that, so that is absolutely something that we need to be doing more of.
Yeah. Now we're still going to have to deal with the fact that we're going to have a slew of people in the subprime area that aren't going to qualify for these leases. And what are we going to do to help those consumers still have reliable transportation and be able to sell vehicles in that space? And that's
you waive an open order. This is exactly what you do.
We got 20 minutes, and I want to bring another subject into play here. The manufacturers fell in love with Tesla. They fell in love with Carvana, and the manufacturers really fell in love with Carvana. We are going to deliver cars at the people's houses. We are going to deliver cars on total online transactions. The customers are not. Guess what? Only a portion of the customers accepted total online transactions. A portion. Carvana right now, those vending machines are standing empty. We are about to have a flood of used cars on the market, probably coming from Carvana and Vroom. We're going to have a whole flood of cars coming on the market, and used car values are sinking like a rock right now. What are we going to do to stay ahead of used cars? And how many dealers are we talking to on this broadcast who are totally underwater? You are totally submerged already, and the water's getting higher, and you're not getting rid of these units. Ben?
I'm just going to go back to managing your business. In the morning, you come in the morning. If I'm the GM, and which I am, I'm walking outside with my used car manager. I'm touching the cars that came in the day before. I'm talking to my recon guys to make sure that I get my cars out quickly. I'm going to keep going back to, we have to manage our business every single day. There's no secret sauce. There's no manufacturer that's going to wave a magic wand and make leasing and used cars perfect and processes perfect. When a subprime customer comes in, we got to have a tight process. We got to treat them great. We got to make sure that they feel like they're wanted and cared about. There's no magic wand to this. And I'm telling you, every day we have to have people coming in to work hard at their business, my business. I have to own it and make sure my people give my customers massive value every day. And I just think,
you do have a subprime department?
We have a system that we use called Streamline, that the customer comes down and they sit right down with us and we pick out a car together. I'm sure you've seen it. West Herr advertises it a lot, and it gives the customer a way to feel like they're part of the transaction. Gives them green cars, yellow cars, and red cars, and so it books out our inventory, and it gives them a chance to say, yeah, I want to pay a little bit more per month. I want to pay a little bit less per month. But everything has a process. Everything has a objective, and if we manage like we have the last 2 years, some of us. We're going to be in trouble. That's just the way it's going to go. We got to get back to the blocking and tackling. 30 days, 60-day supply, and then, hey, it's got to go. Max,
I got to tell you, I have so many times.
Crazy.
I can recall a time when I stood on the showroom of the original Team Chevrolet, the original store, and the used car manager and I were getting in an argument. You know who I'm talking about, don't you, Kristin?
Probably.
And I said, we gotta take those cars to the auction. We gotta wholesale those cars. And the used car manager told me, as many used car managers have told me, oh, Jim, we can sell our way out of that. How many times have you heard that, Brett?
Hey, we got to remember this is like 20 years ago.
Right.
Guys, I think
still happening.
I think
not necessarily in your store, but it's
not
happening.
in your store.
But I think every dealer will learn the meaning of the word curtailment. That's an SAT word for the dealers that haven't used the dictionary for the last 2 years. These curtailments are going to destroy your cash flow, and they're coming.
I think there's malaise even in good operations. And I hear what Ben's saying, and he's right. Fundamentals and process solve everything. But at the end of the day, right now, Ben, you're probably telling your guys to get proactive about a trade that was, misappraised 3 days ago in an environment where we have no business misappraising a unit, right?
That's right. That's
I mean, when the pressure comes, it's an ecosystem and everything gets into effect. And we're going to, our guys are going to have to go from, no pun intended, 0 to 60 here pretty quickly. I mean, there's going to be a rude awakening here for even good operators, even great operators. And, and again, going back to, I forget who said it earlier, there's people in the business, they've never known any other existence. They think appreciating used cars are like a thing. Right? They think you can, have a salesperson who, can make 15 grand or 20 grand selling 7 units is the thing. Like this isn't the normalization of our industry. And
it's not. No, it's not. It's amazing because Carvana, online auctions, method auction, I believe, but online auctions, Carvana was standing there holding her hand up to their arm cramped. They were buying cars like $10,000 above stupid value.
Right. Wow.
And now they're how many cars is Carvana underwater, and they're just teetering on the edge of bankruptcy? What's going to happen with how all those cars they've got in inventory at all those locations?
Jim, I think they'd survive. They're not headed towards insolvency. When your biggest investor is Apollo, there's smart people over there. There's the guts of they've got a good sales tool. They've got good, user interface. I think at the end of the day, somebody would be smart enough in that deal to keep that thing afloat. They faced a doomsday scenario, and I'm not saying they didn't deserve it. But just what you were talking about, what they were doing, driving up the prices and all the auctions, across the United States. CarMax, to a much lesser degree, has been doing that for years, right?
Absolutely. When I was in retail, CarMax was the enemy.
Right? They would hire the ex-college football player who would sit in the lane, and he had his formula, and he knew where he could go on that car, and it was north of where you wanted to be.
Yeah. And Brett, to your point, FTX had very smart investors too. They had BlackRock, they had Tiger Management, right? And this kid took everybody for $10 billion, right? So these smart investors in Carvana, right, is not an answer. And I'm really, rooting for Carvana to survive, right? Because
are you really?
Survive, it will destroy used car values for all regular car dealers. So I'm just saying we tend to overestimate others and underestimate ourselves. And just because Apollo is investing in Carvana.
Wait a second, Max, go back. Max, go back.
Are you predicting?
Max, go back. Wait, Max, a second. Max, you said they would destroy used car values if they go under. Explain that.
Well, listen, I don't know how many thousands of cars, but I'm sure it's many thousands of cars that Carvana has in inventory. And if they go under, they would have to
have a big ass number, okay?
So let's pick a number. Let's say it's 30,000, right? They would have to have a fire sale for 30,000 units. And that fire sale will drag used car values even further down than they are now. So I don't think any new or used car dealer, should be hoping for Carvana's demise. No. At this point, you really want them to make it.
Well, don't you think though? And this is just like here's what I really think about this. I think Carvana did what they did, not with the intention to ever be good at selling cars. I think they did it with the intention of the stocks. I think it was all about making their money, and they made their money. They took advantage of the proper time to do it. Now, I also think that if they go bankrupt, at the end of the day, they will control it in the way that when Hertz went bankrupt. They will only allow so many cars out of the system, going down the auction lines in a very strategic way to not upset the apple cart. I just will find it interesting, is Carvana going to be able to bid on their own cars, buy them back at the right dollars, and then be able to shop back up? That's where it starts to get a little interesting. I mean, they did buy ADESA, and you just have to wonder. Anyway,
that would be like the ultimate insider trading, right? That would be the ultimate insider trading.
Yeah, but can go out there and start buying those cars, for pennies on the dollar, whatever. I'm in. Let's go.
Okay, I've said
that's
that
what happens
many
that's
times.
what happens in real estate, right? They control, those foreclosed properties. They control the introduction into the economy to protect home values. But again, that's different than, I don't think we've ever seen anything on this scale. And I'm not, Chicken Little over here, but to a point, I hear Max, I hear Jim. It would be bad for used car values in the short term. I don't think that's where it's going. Like April's saying, I think there's still another chapter here for these guys, good, bad, or right, wrong, or indifferent. But they got, in a very commodity business, they got called out on really the worst case scenario possible.
Yep.
Well, they absolutely got called out. I think the reason car dealers are so bad, they portrayed all of us to be criminals, and of course the Garcias themselves are criminals, in my opinion. Did I say my opinion? That's some legal shit. Okay, in my opinion, in my opinion, the
I'm not even
Garcias,
saying pineapple on that one because I agree.
but they portrayed car dealers to be criminals. They, look at some of the Vroom commercials and go to the other side of it, and I can't believe that dealers were actually giving them their inventory to post when they attacked us so vehemently. I think that is the reason so many dealers are applauding what's happened to Carvana is they attacked every other dealer. They portrayed us to be, and I love car dealers. I have defended car dealers my entire career. I'd be a lot richer if I was a criminal. I could have said a lot of things. Ben, where are you on this issue?
Listen, I feel bad for what's happened to a lot of their investors, but I'm with Brett. I think they're going to stay the course. They're going to do what they do, and we've seen some stocks take really major bad beatings lately, and they still are going to operate businesses. And listen, I don't know any of us that know the future on that. I love Max's perspective, though. He is angry. He is always very angry. That's for sure.
Max was born angry. When the doctor held Max upside down, he slapped the doctor.
Max has been coming in quick. I love his perspective.
I was going to ask Max earlier if he foresaw in this dramatic shift and flooding of the used car market a necessity for another cash for clunkers. You want to talk about ultimate doomsday scenarios? Mm-hmm.
There's a perspective. Do you think Cox or Amazon or some large corporation going to jump in and they have to finance, but they'll buy Carvana?
I've been hearing some of that out, in the.
I've heard a little bit of that. That's why I'm surprised it came up.
We should message Cliff and ask him what he thinks about that.
So the answer is yes. It's a phenomenal deal for Amazon, but for Carvana, not for Vroom, because Vroom is just a total failure, But Amazon would benefit because every car purchase is a large ticket item, and it would do wonders to their top line.
Yeah.
And at some point, they will be chasing top line to show growth to investors.
But guys, listen, I don't know if you are going to all try to disagree with me on this. I met with Mrs. Smith this morning in the service lane at 8:06, and her car was broken down, and she wanted to talk to me particularly. She asked for me by name. She says, "Where's that guy? I want to see him." I went out there and spent 35 minutes with her, and she left here happy, driving a different car, and hers is broken. That I don't know that anybody knows how to do that yet. No. In that kind of scale with the Vrooms and all the rest.
No, not with the Vrooms or the OEMs direct. Nobody's going to disagree with you on that.
And I know you guys are car people. You've had the same thing happen to you, I'm sure, hundreds of times.
Hey, and Ben, I don't.
Here's Matt Raymond. I wonder who this guy is.
Since we only have a few minutes left, I want to go and throw another grenade in here. Here's
okay, good.
I understand the appeal of the agency model. I do. I just had a friend buy a car in Europe under the agency model. They raved about it. They bought a Mazda in Italy, and I heard about it for 2 weeks. This was one of our former executives, our former CMO. And look, I get it, but it seems like anybody who's buying a Tesla, especially in the Tampa market, I'm taking their trade because Tesla's not interested in their trade. How can you say that it was the best car buying experience you ever had if you have to go to car lots to get them to put a number on your trade? Somebody has to help me there. And I get it. Tesla's created a wonderful brand. They don't have to, they don't have to advertise to sell cars. The New York Times does it for them. Well, I guess you could say Elon's, maybe fighting himself right now.
But that was a touchdown pass, Brad. That was a touchdown pass. Good point.
But I can't talk people out of telling me they had the best experience of their lives as I'm buying their trade that Tesla wasn't even trying to compete for. I just
couldn't agree more. These people are in the cult. That's all they are.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah, they're
well, the manufacturer. The last 5 minutes, the manufacturers are saying they're going to sell directly to the public. They're going to do direct sales online. You know what? The consumers have totally said only some of us are going to do that. Yep. The majority of people won't do that. They didn't pull the trigger online. Digital retailing failed in the mission they set out to do. Digital retail. I'm telling every dealer, you need to have a digital retailing tool. You need to have Roadster. You need to have anyone AutoFi. You need to have any of those people, a Prodigy upstart. You need to have a digital tool, but it's not going to be the majority of customers that take delivery at their home. Only some will do that. Only some customers will actually transact online and buy the car. Most of them bailed out before they gave their financial information, before they bought they didn't buy F&I products. That's a big lie being told to dealers. Oh, you're going to sell F&I products online. Some people will do that. Most will not. So in other words, digital retailing worked for some of the people, not for most of the people. And that's part of the reason Carvana failed. I'm back. Anybody want to comment on that?
Listen, I just want to say that digital retail tools are a joke. Right? Because during COVID, everybody signed up, right? And then there was a flood of cancellations, right? So I don't think that Roadster or AutoFi are laughing all the way to the bank now, right? Because at the end of the day, a regular consumer showed everybody how they want to buy a car. And all they wanted to do is take that up bus and come to the dealership and negotiate on a car. They didn't want to go through a Roadster, through any other digital retail tools. This is all BS. And Jim, when you say some people bought F&I products, 0 people bought F&I products through digital retail tools.
It was close to 0. It was close to 0. Some actually tripped and did it.
Yeah,
right,
there were some
products. I sell F&I products for a living, guys. 0 people bought F&I products online from the dealers that I work with. And I work with a lot of dealers. Right? It's not the reality. Maybe in 2072, when none of us are here, it'll be a reality. Right? But now,
I still don't think the majority of Americans, even then, are going to want to make that type of investment.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Unseen. And like I said, I don't even think of it as digital retailing. The first group I worked for, we had our own car hauler. We were delivering units all over to the lower 48s before digital retailing was even a word. So it's just about meeting your customer where they're coming from and giving them the ability to shop the way they want to shop. And that's hard for a lot of dealers who want to control every single facet of it. You can still use that information. There's just a lot more data points now as you're looking at and assessing. I'm testing a new, and it's not, they don't call it a digital retailing tool, but
we got 2 minutes, kid. 2 minutes.
Yeah. Anyhow, I think the evolution is about engagement, Max. It's not about the 100% buying.
Right. Jennifer,
and so
get to the point, Jennifer. That's what
more people are using it, even if they're not completing the purchase. So don't discredit it 100%. We have to take good care of our customers and let them shop the way they want to shop.
Agree to disagree.
Okay. Let them shop the way they want to shop. We got less than 1 minute. I'm going to wrap this broadcast up. We have had a record audience today for this broadcast. I'm looking at the numbers here, and we've got at least 70 people that were watching it live that I know about. 70 people watched it live on all my channels. And usually we get thousands of people on the replays, but to get 70 people on the live broadcast, that's a lot. Would you agree, Jennifer?
Yeah, I know Bobbie usually keeps track of all of that, but it sounds like a lot for
I think
watching.
65 of them are from Ford.
What's that, Matt? What's that, Matt?
65 of them are from Ford.
Okay. Well, as I wrap up this show, I really appreciate our panel. We got to revisit this subject again, because this subject is of interest to a lot of people in the car business. Thank you, Ben Macdonald, Kristin Dillard, Brett Morgan. I appreciate you being guest panelists. Everybody wave goodbye to the audience.